The hotel room was too quiet for laughter, too still for the sound of my friends' voices echoing down the hall. My phone vibrated on the nightstand, the screen lighting up the dark. "Your flight itinerary has been cancelled." I blinked, half drunk from margaritas and half dizzy from disbelief. Cancelled. I tried refreshing the app. Same message. My return flight gone. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through my email. There it was. A short, cold confirmation from the airline. "Your booking has been cancelled and refunded to the original payment method." The original payment method. His credit card. For a second I just stared, the world tilting slightly under me. Then I laughed. A dry, nervous sound. "He didn't," I whispered. But of course he did. When I left for the trip, Ethan hadn't said a word. Not a fight, not a plea. Just that distant calm he wore when he was done caring. I told him I needed a break. That my friends had been planning this girl's trip for months. That I'd make it up to him after. He only said, "It's your choice, Mia. Just remember choices have echoes." Sounded poetic then. Now it sounded like a threat. Called him immediately. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. And again. By the fifth try, my voice cracked into the quiet room. "Ethan, what the hell is this? Did you cancel my flight? Please call me back." No reply. Instead, a new email appeared. The subject line made my stomach twist. "Divorce filing, Ethan Reeves versus Mia Reeves." The words swam before my eyes. I scrolled, scanning legal terms that meant nothing but felt like knives. Irreconcilable differences. Evidence attached. Petitioner requests dissolution of marriage. My thumb hesitated before opening it. There they were, photos. Me. A bar. A man's hand on my waist. His face turned away but mine lit up mid-laugh. Another photo. Me leaning close, whispering something in his ear. My wedding ring glinting under the dim neon light. Froze. My heart didn't beat. It roared. The man in the photo, Mark, was an old friend from college who happened to be staying in the same resort. We'd had drinks with the group, nothing more. At least that's what I kept telling myself. But the photos, taken from a distance, framed just right, told another story. Ethan must have known. But how? I dialed him again, panic clawing at my throat. Finally, he answered. "Ethan, what is going on? You cancelled my flight." Then his voice, low, almost steady, but cracked around the edges. "You shouldn't have gone, Mia. Are you serious? Because I took a trip with my friends. Because you lied." My breath hitched. "I didn't lie." "Then tell me who took those pictures. Tell me why Mark's hand was on your waist." I swallowed hard. "It wasn't, it looked worse than it was. You know me. You know me, Ethan." "I did," he said softly. "Once." The silence between us felt suffocating. Then quieter. "Check under your door. The hotel should have delivered something by now." Blick. The line went dead. I stumbled to the door, heart pounding. A manila envelope sat on the carpet. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside, divorce papers. Real. Dated 2 days ago. My vision blurred. Didn't make sense. How had it gone this far? We'd had fights before, sure. He worked too much. I felt unseen. But divorce. Over this. I thought back to the night I left. He'd stayed in his office, door half closed. When I kissed his cheek goodbye, he didn't even look up from his laptop. "Have fun," he said, voice flat. "I'll see you when you're back." Except he didn't plan to see me again. The next morning, I found out my room was no longer paid for. The hotel manager stood awkwardly at my door. "Mrs. Reeves, it seems your card on file has been removed. Will you be providing another method of payment?" I stared at him. Mrs. Reeves. Was I still that? I left the resort that afternoon, dragging my suitcase down a sunlit street that suddenly felt hostile. My phone buzzed, one last message from Ethan. "You always said you needed space. Now you have all the space you want." I spent the next few days trying to reach him. Calls, texts, emails. Nothing. When I returned home, on a flight I paid for myself, his car was gone. So was half the furniture. Even the framed photo of our wedding from the hallway was missing. But the smell of him still lingered. That subtle cologne, sharp and woodsy, clinging to the air like a ghost that refused to leave. And then I saw it. An envelope on the kitchen counter, my name written in his handwriting. Inside a USB drive. I hesitated, then plugged it into my laptop. The folder opened to video files. Time-stamped, dated from the week before my trip. The first clip, our living room. Me. On the phone. Laughing. The second. Me packing, texting someone, smiling at my screen. The third. A screenshot of my messages. Mark. Wish you were coming alone, winky face. Mia. You know I can't. He'd never forgive me. Mark. He doesn't have to know. My hands went numb. I didn't remember sending it. But there it was, my name, my words. A reckless message sent weeks ago during one of those late-night fights, when I'd been drinking and angry and wanted attention. Ethan hadn't guessed. He'd known. That night, I sat in our empty living room, replaying everything in my head. The laughter, the distance, the way his eyes had turned colder each month. I thought betrayal was something that exploded all at once. But it wasn't. It was slow. A drip. A bruise under the skin that spreads until you can't tell where it started. Maybe he'd been waiting for this. Waiting for me to hand him a reason. Maybe I had. When I finally heard from him again, it was through his lawyer. But a week later, a letter arrived in his handwriting. Just one page. Mia. I didn't cancel your flight to punish you. I did it to stop myself from running to the airport like a fool to bring you home again. I wanted to hear you say you were sorry before I saw those pictures. But you never called. You just kept posting smiles from the beach. By the time you finally did call, I'd already signed the papers. Maybe that makes me a coward. Maybe it makes you free. Ethan. I read that letter until the ink smudged from my tears. 'Cause he was right. I hadn't called until it was too late. Not really. I'd been too proud. Too certain he'd forgive me. But forgiveness, I learned, has an expiration date. Months later I saw him again, across a coffee shop, with a woman who laughed the way I used to. I almost smiled. He looked lighter, unburdened. He saw me too. Our eyes met for a heartbeat. He didn't look away, but he didn't come over either. Just a small nod. A silent goodbye that hurt more than any shouted word ever could.